Welcome, welcome. We'll be starting in a few minutes, about two or three, and we'll be learning how to make a sound on our brass instruments, specifically trumpet and trombone, two instruments that I play very well. Thank you for coming and checking this out, by the way. Welcome, welcome. We're going to get started in a couple minutes. I know I just said that, but somebody new came in. Good to see so many of you guys showing up. What I'll do is I'll give a couple minutes at the start here um, to let anybody else who's just kind of maybe running a little bit behind pop in. If you have any questions for me in the chat, you feel free to send them forth and I'll answer them, especially right now since we're not really started yet. A lot of these today. I think I gotta put one of these guys down for the time being. So there's a little bit of kind of explanation stuff going on at the beginning of this anyway, so I'm just going to get us started. My name is Nate Karahalis. I am a trombone slash trumpet slash any kind of brass really teacher on Take Lessons. I also do a lot of studio work. As a studio trombonist, I play songs for bands that want me on their album or want a trombone or a brass section on their album. I just go into the studio and play on the stuff for them. I'm also a producer and I do recording and mastering and all sorts of fun stuff in Logic, Pro Tools, and lots of other tech stuff. So, but for today, what I really wanted to talk about with you guys, and again, thank you all for coming, is making a sound on a brass instrument. So feel free at any point during the presentation to ask a question via Q&A and or in the Zoom webinar chat. Probably in the webinar chat's probably easiest for me right now. And you can just literally just ask anything in there and I'll be able to respond to it as quickly as I can. All right, so you're all here to learn one thing today. Or maybe some more things, but how to make a sound. When you play a sound on a keyboard or a piano, you just hit the button and it makes a sound. So I know there must be like some musicians that coming into this that are like, really making a sound? Is that really that difficult a thing to do? But it simply isn't the same thing on a brass instrument or a wind instrument, any kind of wind instrument. It actually takes a special kind of technique to make a sound. And today we're going to focus on the trumpet and trombone. Different instruments have different techniques. The trumpet and the trombone are pretty close in technique. So to start off with this, I'm going to tell you what we're going to go over here. There's a few things that we need to understand how to do in order to make a sound. Believe it or not, holding the instrument correctly makes a huge difference in our ability to make and produce a good sound on our instrument. This, when I talk to my students in lessons and they're trying to get a new high note or something on the trumpet, I immediately notice that usually the culprit for keeping that note out of their reach is either the way that they're sitting or holding their instrument. So usually that's what it is. It makes all the difference. It kind of makes sense. It's the analogy of having the keyboard closed on a piano. You can't make a sound on a piano if the keyboard is closed. All right, and then the second thing that we're going to do is we're going to make our first sound on a mouthpiece. The mouthpiece is the sound maker on brass instruments. So in order to make a sound on the instrument itself, we first have to be able to produce some sort of sound on the mouthpiece. And I'll show you just how to do that in a moment. The embouchure, what is it? How do we form it? And why does it matter? It is probably one of the most important things about making a sound on a brass instrument. So before we get into all of that, let's look at the parts of the trumpet just so I'm not leaving you guys totally in the dark on this. This is just an image that I picked up on Bing search of all places. It's pretty good though. We have our mouthpiece. Here, let me see if I can get the annotations up here. So over here, we have our mouthpiece. This is going to be pretty important. Like I said, it's the sound making apparatus to this. It's the part of the instrument where it actually makes the sound. Without the mouthpiece, it's pretty hard to make a sound. I'll show you for fun how to do it without the mouthpiece, but it's not a sound that you really want to hear more than once, probably. The lead pipe goes into the instrument. We're not going to really talk too much about the lead pipe. Each valve, 1, 2, and 3. And this part is not labeled, but it's a ring on some trumpets, and it's the third valve ring, the pinky ring, and that's because you put your pinky there. The bell, it looks like a bell, water key, fun. We like to call it the spit valve sometimes and gross people out. There's not spit to come out of it ever. It's literally just condensation in it, but you know, water key or spell, whatever you want to call it is fine with me. So we have those. I'm just going to go through all of these parts on the trombone now. On the trombone, I had to add some things to it because there wasn't really a good diagram of the trombone labeled. So I added some of the things that I thought would be important. The tuning slide, which we won't touch. The mouthpiece, again, is right here. The slide brace, second slide brace, this is the first slide brace. I didn't label it because we're not really going to do too much with it. I guess we'll do a little bit with it, but just note that that is the first slide brace, and then there's a second slide brace, and then there's the bell brace, which we will use also. And then there's the bell, which apparently I didn't label, but that is the bell. It's got a nice arrow going to it. Beautiful arrow. All right, how do you hold the trumpet? Here's where I got to back out here and show you on my video here. I'm going to show you in the video here first. This is the trumpet. It's without any kind of mouthpiece attached to it right now. So I can't make any sound on it. That sound, that the thing that just dropped, that would be my mouthpiece. I will go and get that. Try not to do that. All right, so this looks pretty complicated when you just saw me holding it with my left hand. So we'll start with the right hand first on this. Take your right hand. If you're confused about which is your right and your left is the only one that actually makes an L when you look at it. So find the one that makes a backwards L, and that would be your right hand, okay? It's also, for quite a few of you, it's the hand that you write with. Some of you definitely write with the left there. That's great. Okay, a lot of musicians actually with that. So take your right hand, and we start with our pinky here. And if you notice right here, there's that pinky ring. It's not really a ring, but it's just kind of a place where you put your pinky. Now, if you have your pinky there, we have the ring finger, middle, and the index finger right there. That's one, 2, and 3, or 3, 2, 1, if you're following where I'm going from. Now, the thumb is going to run a rest below the lead pipe. The lead pipe is the pipe, the piece of piping here, the piece of metal where you put the mouthpiece, okay? And it's underneath that. See if you can get a good angle on that. See, I've got my thumb here. I got my fingers on the valves, and I'm going to put my thumb underneath the lead pipe up against that first valve. And so it should be able to rest. The instrument should be resting on 3 places. One is my pinky, the thumb on the lead pipe, and the thumb on the first valve casing here. You can kind of see it. Becoming a contortionist here. So then you take your left hand, all right? And again, that's the one that makes an L when you're looking at it. I'm not sure what it looks like to you now because cameras do funny things, but it should make an L. Now, what I usually will do, I'll do one of 2 things because I've got really, really big hands, perhaps bigger than what you have. So what you're going to want to do is start with the thumb here. Thumb is going to go against the valve casing, the first valve casing, right below the other thumb. And then what you do is you take your either pinky or ring finger. And I think I kind of have to use the ring finger to do that. And I wrap the rest of my fingers, I wrap around the third valve there, except for the pinky, because literally my hand is just way too big for this instrument. So let me share the screen again so you can see. I wrote out the directions for it too, and we'll go through them written. Some people learn better written, some people learn better by seeing. This is our written thing here. We're going to grab the trumpet in our right hand, placing the pinky in around the third valve ring, or whatever you want to call it, since it's not real a ring. You do 3, 2, 1. Thumb is going to go under the lead pipe, okay, and up against the first valve casing. 1, 2, and 3 on that. Okay, and then our left hand, which it looks like I didn't write the left hand down. Our left hand, I'll go over again here on the camera so you can see it. We take our left thumb and we go up between, here's another way to look at it, is it's going between these 2 pipes, the lead pipe and the bell. And then you put your ring finger, if you have really big hands, you put your ring finger in there. If you don't, you might have to put your pinky finger in there. And it is important to make sure that you can move that slide, but it's not important for today. But it's a good idea. If you can't move that slide, you want to definitely make sure to talk to your teacher or talk to me. I can give you some hints on how to get that slide moving for you. You do need it for one of your beginning notes. So let's go to the next slide here. If I need to slow down, please let me know. I'm going to just show this one more time, actually, before we go back into the shared screen. Get the screen back to me here. Yep. All right. So right hand, I'm just doing it a little quicker this time because I've shown it to you a couple times. We want to get to sound making. Okay. This is part of it. This is part of it, believe me, on it. Thumb on the back. And then I've got 1, 2, 3 of my fingers going through right before the ring. And then my pinky, and or maybe it's just 2 fingers and then my pinky just kind of hangs out there. That's fine if your hand is super big. All right, so let's go to the next instrument. Since we're not just learning trumpet today, we're learning trombone as well. Lucky you. All right, so the next one is trombone. Now, this is my main instrument, so I have to really slow it down in my head. Otherwise, it could go too fast on this. So the trombone, you can see the bell, you can see the slide, you can see all these portions of it here. We are going to make this as easy as possible. Sorry, we'll go here. Make this as easy as possible here. Take an L with your left hand. That's going to wrap around. Your thumb is going to wrap around the bell brace. This is the bell brace that connects the bell to the lead pipe. Okay? You take the rest of your fingers, literally all of them, except for this index finger. You're going to put that, if your index finger is long enough, you want to put it around the mouthpiece receiver right here. Okay, if it's not, it's okay to make it go in there. Just realize that this is like the standard way of holding it, and this is more of a kind of a different kind of way of doing it. But literally, whatever works is okay. This is not going to make a big difference as long as you're not doing this or this. It's these are like, this is like, I don't know, it's like, you know, Star Wars Stormtrooper kind of thing or something like that. So literally left hand into it, make an L with the left hand, shove that L right underneath the bell brace. Rest of your fingers, except for the index finger, going around that. Okay. Right hand is even easier. It's literally just these three fingers. Sorry, these three fingers, and you do your index and middle on the bottom side, and thumb on the top. And that is all that you're going to use to hold the slide part of it, the slide brace. And it's your second slide brace instead of the first one here. First slide brace right here, second here, okay? This makes a big difference in sound production. I had a beginner student starting with me online the other night, and it literally made the difference in night and day with the way he was holding the instrument between being able to play that first note and not at all, like barely a sound. So it's a big difference here. And for those of you that are more textual, I think that's the word for it, textual learners here, here's the text on it here. We'll go through it a little bit together here. We're going to make an L with your hand. I like L's, don't I? Certainly sounds like it. You make an L with your hand. Letter L. You're going to put the thumb around the bell brace. The rest of the fingers are going to go through the top part of the slide. That's really, it's the slide brace. With the exception of maybe the pointer finger. Pointer finger can go around the mouthpiece receiver. It's where you actually put the mouthpiece. Okay? So that's all that is right there. Any questions so far? Okay, I don't see any yet. You guys are wicked smart. I'm from Boston, by the way, so if I drop my R's, comes to the territory. All right, next thing is we have mouthpieces. These are the magical pieces of metal that are literally responsible for every sound that comes out of a trumpet or a trombone. Okay, I'm not sure. Am I sharing the screen yet? Nope. Cool. Keep going back and forth between sharing the screen, so you can yell at me if I saying something and nothing isn't showing up. Here we are again. Okay, the mouthpiece. Okay, I have a little bit of a different mouthpiece here. I got this actually. I was trying to get the cheaper version of it, and they ran out of the cheaper one, so they actually sold me the nicer one. But it's the same idea. We have a little round rim to it. I labeled the pieces of the mouthpieces. So you notice that the trumpet mouthpiece is a lot smaller than the trombone one. That is the best photo of a trombone mouthpiece that I could find, by the way. Aside from taking one myself. And again, mine looks a little weird, so it doesn't really look 100% like this. This is a Dennis Wick model mouthpiece with a gold rim on it. You don't need a gold rim, but That's okay. We'll go on to those parts here. There are distinct parts of this that you should be aware of. You have the aperture, okay? And the aperture is literally just a place for the air to go through. That's where the air needs to go. You need to make sure that the wind from your lungs goes into the instrument, and otherwise, if it doesn't go into the aperture, it doesn't make a sound. That'll be important in a minute. You have the cup of the mouthpiece. It's the inside section of the mouthpiece that's kind of deep in it. And then you have the rim of it. And we're going to be talking a lot about these two parts, the rim and the aperture specifically. I pointed on this, and this one's really kind of difficult to demonstrate. But if you're going to make a sound on this goes into embouchure building a little bit. A good trumpet or trombone embouchure is kind of like this. And this is the best way that I can describe it. It may be different for you, it may be different for depending on which teacher you study with. But in general, this is how I would suggest developing the embouchure. Right here, just right where the edge is, your top lip is going to go straight just below the top edge of the inside part of the mouthpiece rim. Okay? And try to point at it as best as possible. That's where your top lip is going, right inside there. It should fit inside the cup, actually. And the reason for that is that you're going to want to use most of your lip. The top part of your lip is relatively small. This part here, it doesn't have a lot of the qualities of something that you need for making sound on your instrument. So we're going to have much more of the lower part of your lip in there and a lot less of your top part. So we have that like this. I'll show you on my camera too, so you can see it. Really close, you can see really close. Now a lot of my lower lip is inside the cup, and just a little bit, both of my lips, sides of my lips are inside the cup of the mouthpiece. But it's a little bit lower. It's not like this. So you don't want to. I'm doing goofy things with this now. The end game of this is, if you're not getting a sound on it, then you want to just adjust it up or down and see if it's in the right place for you. Because obviously, where your lips are positioned on your face is going to be unique. We're all wonderfully unique, and that's awesome. The other thing is, we want to make sure that we are centered right in the middle here. Okay? So make sure it's not too far to the left, not too far to the right. Okay? Trumpet is exactly the same way, by the way. Let me move ahead in the slide. So, the embouchure here, this is the last kind of talking bit that I'll do before we start actually getting some sounds out of this. The embouchure, okay? In order to make that sound, what we need is we need tightened corners of our lips, okay? We want to place our lips together like we're saying, okay? Like macaroni and cheese, I like mac and cheese. If our lips are pressed together too tightly, then that aperture that we have in the middle of the little hole, there's no way the air can go through it. So we want to make sure that our aperture is open wide enough so that we can put air through the horn, but that it is pressed together still like, okay? So it's really kind of light, not too tight, but tight enough to make some noise on the instrument. Some things that can happen if you are doing them too tight. You might get a sound. That's true. But it probably is not a great sound. If you get a sound at all. And the end game of doing this the wrong way can end up with a lot of pain. You don't want pain. This pain can can be temporary, it can be permanent. You don't want to do either one of those. If you do it, if that's you say you're playing trumpet the wrong way for years and years and years, the pain could become something that would be permanent and it will keep you from getting the high notes that you want to get on the trumpet to progress. So you really want to be careful with the embouchure and when in doubt, definitely follow your teacher's best guidance on that because they know you better than anybody else, certainly better than I do at the moment. All right. So what do we actually do? How do you make a sound on it? I always like to ask that question. How do you make a sound on this instrument? Well, Nate, you're supposed to know that, right? Of course I know that. I'm asking you guys now. If anybody out there feels like they want to answer this, feel free. How do you make a sound on it? Let's see. Anybody have any guesses? Yep, vibration. That's vibration. 90% of the instruments that 90% of all instruments require some sort of vibration. Yeah, that's right. Where do you think the vibration is going to come from? I ask these questions because it's kind of the most fun and silly part of brass instruments. Yep. It's the lips. And this is the time in the presentation where we get to make some rude noises here. If you're a school student, it's probably that noise that would get you in for recess. Well, back when I was going to school, it would get you in for recess. It is the noise that your parents would just be like, no, we really don't want to hear that noise today. So, but you buzz into the mouthpiece. All right. And literally to do that, you're making some rude noises, okay? That's literally what you have to do to get the right sound out of your instrument. It sounds super rude and kind of gross when or I guess it depends on who you are. Maybe you enjoy that kind of noise too, and that's fine. But this noise, believe it or not, becomes the kind of glorious trombone or trumpet sound that we hear. So I'm going to try all of those steps that we talked about. I'm going to tighten the corners of my mouth. I'm going to do all of this and make it look incredibly easy. And hopefully some of you guys have some sort of brass instrument in front of you. If you don't, that's okay. It's not a requirement, but wouldn't it be nice to try it out? All right. Mouthpiece. I'll do it on trombone first since it's in my hand, and then I'll do it on the trumpet since I go to go find the mouthpiece now that it fell on the floor. That's not a very good sound, is it? Sounds like a duck. I'm not so sure if this is going to work. It turns from that goofy noise that they tell you not to do in school to something that's actually kind of nice, and it can make it sound loud and majestic like Star Wars. I'm on a Star Wars kick today. You can make it sound, maybe slow and more lyrical. be self-critical on my playing just now too. You have to see that you have to understand my body is turned, it's like facing towards you, but when I move like this, I cause one of those problems that I would probably correct on a student of mine, which is constricting the airflow. Another one of those things, but that's another lesson. That's another lesson. If we get into it, if we get some extra time today, I won't have a mind going into it, but that would be another one. All right. Now, I know some of you guys, probably most of you guys, are the trumpet playing variety. So I'll go grab that for a second. The same thing, same exact thing that I did with the trombone just now. This is why I put these guys together. Will happen with the trumpet. We're still buzzing into the mouthpiece. This is more like a mouthpiece that you would get. Maybe the aperture in the middle. All right. Switching between trombone and trumpet is a little bit difficult sometimes too. So that, see how that goes from buzzing, making this really kind of like, oh my goodness, we're not gonna ever, have like, it's like Symphony Hall, for example, in Boston. That's my frame of reference here. Would you go to an orchestra concert and listen to the trumpet section and just go? Maybe you would, I don't know. But probably not. Probably not for the price that they sell tickets for. Those tickets can go be like $60 to $100, maybe even more than that. So what you have to realize is that all of this stuff, all of these things that we just talked about are embouchure, which is the here, I'll go back over it really quick because I know there've been some people coming in and out, and we definitely have some time to do that. So let me go back to the thing here. We'll go over things really in a much more abbreviated way. So if I go back to not that far back, but the trumpet mouthpiece here with the parts of the trumpet, again, a reminder that you want to have your most of the lip that you're going to be putting into the cup is going to be your lower lip here. A lot more of the lower lip inside than the top here. But again, you can adjust it left and right, up and down to your particular needs of it. Just you want to be relatively centered on your lip. The embouchure is an important thing. There's almost nothing more important about brass playing than your embouchure. And you didn't see a lot of this because when you're doing the right thing on this, it's more of a sound. You notice more by the sound and the looks. But if you tighten the corners, if you're not tightening the corners, it's not gonna be as easy to buzz. And you're gonna be putting a lot more effort into it and getting a lot less out of it. You keep your lips lightly pressed together as if making the sound okay? Really important. If they're pressed too tightly together, then that aperture, this here, isn't going to get the air. So you have to make sure that it's not pressed too close together. Otherwise, the air will not go into the instrument. That's the only other thing that this works on. You can't just, I don't think there's a way you can actually buzz the mouthpiece without sending air in, aside from just covering the aperture totally. So actually, I can show you what that sounds like in a second too. So if you have a trumpet at home, try to make these weird sounds in them, these kind of duck sounds, so to speak. That's why I put the duck there. Let's go over this here. When we learn how to hold the trumpet, it is important. It's really important to be holding your instrument correctly. I'll add in, since we're still good for time right now, I'll add in this next part of it too. It's like another part that's kind of hard to demonstrate. So I'm going to show you, I'll show you as much of it as I can, and then I just describe the rest of it for you. To hold this instrument properly, it's not just a matter of putting your hands on it the right way, it's literally holding it in the right way too. The camera is relatively level. So right now, it looks like I've got it angled down a little bit. I've actually got it angled straight across. So it should look like this. And that's about where you want to have your horn angled. Now, you can't see the bottom half here. I want to just kind of draw a drawing of, use the annotation thing here. So let's get to the PowerPoint for a second. I'll use the annotation. I'm not good at drawing, just for the record here. They don't have me teaching lessons for art, like drawing art. Just trombone and trumpet and a few other things. You'll learn about that in a second. All right, let me get a darker color here. Okay, so this is your lap when you're sitting in the chair. If you're sitting in a chair, this is how you want to do. 90-degree angle down. Okay, I'll put the angle in. This is where your feet are. Okay, hopefully your feet don't look like that, because I think it'd be really hard to walk. All right, another 90-degree angle right here. Okay. Some of you, if you're on the younger side or you're kind of tiny, it could potentially be a little hard for you to, in the chair, sit back on the back of the chair. That's okay. You don't need it. You don't need the back of the chair. Especially if you are a younger kid, chances are you probably don't need the back of the chair there. So sit forward in the chair so you can make a 90-degree angle there. Your feet want to be flat with the floor as much as possible. Again, some of you maybe not there yet. That's okay. The reason why you want to be like this is because it will allow your lungs to expand to their full capacity, and you'll be able to do something which eventually you'll learn in lessons is kind of is super important, about as important as the embouchure, and that is air support. And especially the younger you are, the more important it is. Kids, teens, young adults, your body hasn't finished growing. So until you reach adulthood, you kind of have to make up for not having full-size adult lungs. And the way you make up for that is by sitting up straight. And no, I must sound like everybody's grandma and grandpa, and the sign of me getting old, I guess. But trust me on this. It definitely will help with playing the trumpet and trombone, brass instruments, many other instruments too. So definitely make sure that you are sitting up straight in the chair. The way to get around that, you're like, oh, I don't want to sit up straight. Okay, well, that's fine too. Stand up instead. Okay. Stand up. It's impossible to have, wow, he's got a long neck. All right, stand up with your trumpet, okay, or trombone. And that will eliminate the problem of your lung compressing. There won't be any angles to worry about or anything like that. So that's a way around it there. All right. I think I've goofed around enough on here. So I'm going to give you guys the last part of this here. And I'll feel free to give me any questions you have about this. I've been playing brass for about 22 years, last I calculated. So I am pretty knowledgeable on brass. Oh, here, sorry. Yeah, feel free to ask me any questions here. I'm going to show you this next slide here. I am, as you know, a teacher on the Take Lessons website. So if you're wondering how to find me, let me show you here. Let me Bing search that for you. And it's in the chat too. It'll be a few other places too. Oh, did the video stop? Why did it stop? Oh, there it goes. All right, so when you go there, you'll see, oh, I'm there. Look at that. And all you have to do at that point is click View Lesson Packages and sign up. All right. And if you want to learn more about trumpet or trombone or a few other things here, I just want to show you the few other things that I have to offer you here. Today we have a Get 10 discount code for those of you that sign up. Maria, what is it 10% off the lesson price? Is that correct? Okay, yep, 10%, awesome. And I just put through a few things that you should know about me here. This is probably a little bit of an older picture, but it's pretty accurate. I don't think it changed that much. 22 years of brass playing experience, 10 years of brass teaching experience, actually more than that. Obviously, I'm not teaching when I'm 12 years old or something like that. That's much later. I've got 15 years of concert production experience. That goes into the other subjects that I teach here. Right now it's listed as Logic Pro 10. I'm actually fluent on all of the DAWs out there. 6 years of public school teaching experience in music. So not only have I taught privately, but I've taught in public schools as a band director at different points or different grade levels. I'm an active music producer. We produced a salsa tune last week. We're producing a rap song this week. I'm a composer and arranger. You can see some of my arrangements up on my YouTube, which is shared on the Take Lessons profile. I am a studio musician. What that is basically, if you're not sure what that is, I go in, people actually pay me to go and play the brass parts so they don't have to do it on their album. I hold a master's degree from the Laundry School of Music in music performance, and I've taught trumpet, trombone, production, which is the recording and or audio production stuff, going out and recording concerts, running shows and stuff like that, and music theory, which I've taken all sorts of crazy music theory. I can't even remember how many years of music theory at this point, but it gets pretty wild. So, all right. So I really want to thank you guys for coming. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate it, you guys coming and watching this. And thank you. This is really nice. It's good to be able to share things, you know. So I'm keeping this up though. So you can, if you need to copy any information down, feel free. The link is still in the chat here. And I think that's all I have for you guys. Especially if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm here. So